Hello and welcome to the Scale Modelling Cafe, and welcome to a Sprue Tour video, which I haven't done one of these for quite a while, but this is quite an exciting model, and it's this one. It's Eduard's 109F in 1/72nd scale. Now, we've been waiting a fair while for this. It was announced quite a long time ago, actually, and when the S199 Mezek came out in 72nd scale, it was a bit of a forebear to this. So we kind of knew how good this was going to look in the box. More of that in a moment, though, when we pop over to the bench. Oh, excuse me while I just itch my nose. Sorry about that. So the S109 Mezek is a beautiful kit. It's got some innovative features in there, not least that on the front of the cockpit floor are the sort of housings for the undercarriage legs, which have got these really kind of long and robust rectangular bits which set the angle and the forward rake of those landing gear legs. So they're really strong, they'll be at the perfect angle, and it's brilliant. Also on the Mezek, the riveting was beautiful, and I've already had a sneak peek of that. And it's the same in there, so you'll see that in a second too. Some quite interesting parts breakdown for it as well, especially around the sort of tail fin area. That's all quite cool. But what I'll also do though is I've bought some of the Eduard Brassin stuff for it, and I'll just very quickly at the end of the actual kit review, Sprue Tour. I don't want to call it review because it's not a review, it's a Sprue Tour. At the end of the Sprue Tour, I will go through some of those Brassin bits just very briefly, just to show you what they look like, and essentially ask the question: is it worth getting the Brassin bits when the kit is actually so nice in the first place? That'll be up to you to decide. I'll just show you, and there we go. And obviously, this is going to get built fairly soon as well, and you'll be able to make your mind up on there, because I'm going to do one straight from the box. And one, I'm going to throw those bits of resin at it as well. So it'll be good, sort of compare and contrast. There we go. Right, enough waffleage. Let's pop over to the bench and have a look what's in the box.
Okay, here we are at the bench, and here's that beautiful box art, actually. Absolutely love that. Right. As is traditional, we're going to start with the instruction booklet, and I just love this presentation of the box art there, but it's in this kind of oldie, worldy, kind of archived sort of background here, and I just think that's great. Right at the start, we get a really very, very comprehensive instructional article all about the different variants, and with reference photos as well. Evolution from the E into the early Fs, and just detailing all the minute little differences which make such a difference to the modeler, knowing that the research is going to be absolutely impeccable. Really like that. Parts map, obviously lots on the generic sprue, not for use here. We know that the later variants are coming, the Gs and eventually the K. So imagine that's going to be generic for all of the kits pretty much. And then straight in with the cockpit, as is traditional. But the first thing you'll notice is down here, this kind of funny thing at the front. That is the landing gear mechanism, and eventually, as we'll see in a bit, they just slot in there, which sets the angle, the forward rake and display, which is really innovative, and I love that. Such a neat touch. The instructions are very clear, telling you exactly where all the photo etch goes, what to remove if you're going to replace certain bits with photo etch. Really very clear. Unusual kind of tail arrangement here with the separate fin going in, so obviously we will be getting the taller tail at some point, and a very kind of secure tail wheel mount going on down here. Separate sort of cowling gun troughs going in. So again, a nod to the other versions, really like that. One-piece tailplane and everything sandwiched in with the rudder. And again, nice and robust. I think they're learning lessons from other people here. Just one thing of note up here is the machine gun barrels and where they are, how they go in. This part is separate in, you can get the Brassin replacement. I did want that, but unfortunately it didn't arrive. It wasn't in stock before I came out here. Everything else is very conventional, but again, another thing I wanted to point out are the one-piece inserts for the wheelbase. Now, two different types, and again, as we'll see in a second, I do have the Brassin replacements, but nice to see they're one piece. More innovation, and we saw this as well in the S109 kit, are the flap and the radiator housing is one piece, and you just bend it to the correct angular droop, if you like, which is really nice because trying to fit a separate part here is going to be really quite fiddly. It's bad enough in 32nd and 48th, let alone in 72nd. If I just go back a step, where the wings attach, be very careful with the glue here and do not glue the flap, the inner side of the flap, to the fairing here, because you may want to bend that down and it will be scored on the inside if it's like the Mezek kit. Now, it did say in the instructions about that, but there's no notes in this particular one, so just be careful of that. And then, yeah, the rest of it's quite conventional. Some photo etch going on in the canopy here, which is a really nice touch. Obviously, you don't have to use that, and if you're going to do it canopy closed, which on one of them I'm going to do closed, clearly that's not going to be required. But it's a shame they didn't copy, quite frankly, Tamiya's way of doing it, of having really large tabs that fit into a slot in the fuselage sides to make that join really secure. This, on the open side, is literally just a butt joint. So one to be very wary of. And then ordnance, got the bomb under there. So that was the F2. Now this is the F4. So they've gone with completely different instructions on this, which actually I quite like doing that way. You see, this has got the wider supercharger intake, but the rest of it is pretty much the same. Obviously, just some of the parts are going to be slightly detailed, differently detailed. So that's the construction. Canopy masks, as you'd expect, just on the outside, and then straight away we're into the marking. So highly detailed, but fairly simple construction. Should be relatively quick. On to the markings then, and yeah, loads of variation here. So this is Werner Melder's when he was Geschwader Commodore of JG51. So I do like the a yellow-niced 109. It is kind of iconic, isn't it? And that'll be in the early scheme of 71 and 02. Another one in 7102, but with a very unusual, I'm assuming that's a replacement wing on the left-hand side, and some overspray toning down the yellow nose, obviously eastern front, and a really wide band. I do like that marking. You'd be forgiven to think this one would be a desert camouflage, but it's not. It is eastern front, and there are documented examples of desert machines being transferred to the east. However, I think this one is a field applied camouflage. And very interestingly, you see how it almost wraps completely round the nose, but just leaving a yellow stripe. This one is going to test your airbrush skills for sure. JG3 with the Tatzelwurm in the nose. And fear not, these very fine stripes here are supplied as a decal. A spotty one from JG, I nearly said 51 then, but is actually JG2, one of the Abbeville boys, and obviously doing a tip and run. So fighter bomber, but again, nice yellow nose. And now this is more of a plain one, just not too much yellow, but some interesting markings on the tail here. Quite a sort of generic camouflage scheme, that one. Wouldn't be a 109F without a winter whitewash. This is Hans Eckhard Bob. I've actually done this kit in 48th. Oh, sorry, not this kit, but this markings. Very complicated, segmented spinner. Very unusual that for some reason this forward part of the cowling was in white, not yellow. Heavily mottled one. This is Pips Priller from JG26. Again, fairly bland, but a famous pilot, and some heavy mottling on the fuselage. This one I really like. This is Herman Graf's. It's got everything for me. It's all the yellow stuff going on at the front, along with the heavily mottled fuselage. I really like this scheme. Very tempted by that one. Yeah, and it goes on and on and on. A Desert One. This is, you can see this is some, this is the CO Gripen Commodore, sorry, of JG53. Chap called Erich Gerlitz. It's quite an attractive scheme with the high demarcation. Novotny's Yellow 8 in the two-tone green, famous JG54 in the green. They tend to do their own field applied stuff. And it still goes on. This is Heinz Bear with a heavily oversprayed rear fuselage. And the famous segmented one. So this is JG5. They did take delivery. They were redirected desert machines, and they kind of turned down the desert camouflage. Very interesting scheme. And the last one I think is really bland, but it is one of Marseille's aeroplanes. So I suppose it ticks the famous pilot box. But yeah, you got the stuff going on the tail. But for me, that's such a bland scheme. Stenciling instructions, extremely comprehensive, and you can see the myriad of options for the stencils. You know, for example, here you can have either S12 or 13 or 14 or 15, and so it goes on, around the whole airframe. So you really are going to have to do your research on the stencils. They don't really do it for you there. And then on the back, some adverts for the Brassin stuff. There's the sort of gun arrangement that I was talking about. Unfortunately, I couldn't get those, but I do have some of these, which you'll see in just a second. Right. Let's open up the sprues. Sorry for the rustling noise. I should have really undone this before. Just take that down there. In fact, that's not worked, is it? Right. Obviously, two different sprues. Now, they are the same. So I'll just look at what I say they're the same. They're not the same. Or are they the same? Come on, Jamie, sort it out. No, they're not the same. Look. Two different sprues. So this one is the F4 and this one is the F2. We'll just have a look at one of them though. Now, let's in fact, let's zoom you in because I'm going to get out the light. Okay, in the traditional sort of grey plastic, it looking a little bit blue on the screen because I haven't set the white balance. Hang on, excuse me. Right, back in a sec. Right, here we are back. White balance is sorted. Sorry about that. Should have done that at the start. Right, okay, so I'm hoping that as I move it around, the light is catching all that rivet detail. Now, as you may know, I'm a huge fan of riveted models. Let's see if I can bring in nice and close. And you can see that lovely rivet detail. Panel lines are pin sharp, and I love that. Now it's going to be interesting how the decals cope with that riveting. No doubt they are going to need some help. There's the so this is the F4, so you get the F4 prop. This is all specific to the F4, so the supercharger intake down the bottom in two parts. I quite like this idea because although looking at it, it does look like the weld seam is moulded on, but it really helps to achieve that welded look. One of the upper wing parts, and again, if I can just catch it in the light, you'll see all that beautiful riveting detail. One piece lower wing, you get two here. So obviously the squared off or the rounded part for the wheel well. Open ejector chutes for the guns, and obviously sealed up on the other one. So the different variants are catered for. Tyres, these are one-piece wheels, ribbed and smooth, and the hubs are here. It's one of the reasons why I didn't go for a resin set, because, ooh, snap that off, that'd be bad. One reason I didn't go for the resin set was just the detail on the wheel hubs. Look at that, that's fantastic. And as you saw in the instructions, one piece separate wheel wells, and they're hollow, and they look like they're chamfered. So if I just turn that round, where's the camera? There we go. You can see positive rivet detail in there as well, and almost scale thickness with the way they've sort of chamfered the edges. That's brilliant. Right, well, we've got it this way round. Cockpit detail. Obviously there are separate parts to add to it, but nicely crisply moulded. You can see here the trim wheel is moulded integral, and then there is another plastic part that will go over that, or it's included in the photo etch set. And the last thing here, let's have a look at that wheel well detail at the top. There we go, so that's that sprue. Let's have a look at this sprue. Right, in this bag we get two identical sprues, so I'll just put that one to one side, and a separate propeller. It just says Bf 109F4 late prop in this separate bag, so that's good research. Okay, so let's start with the cockpit tub. Nicely moulded there, integrally moulded rudder pedals. Nearly said footrest then, sorry. That's the old fast jet in me. They're not footrests in a propeller aeroplane, obviously. They're rudder pedals, and you can replace those with photo etch parts. Here are those one-piece radiators, and on the inside the deep score line, so you can just set the angle. The exhausts, as you may expect, are solid, but to be honest, they're buried so deep. Is a resin replacement necessary? Well, I guess we'll find out when I build it. Flip it round again. We've got a nice drop tank detail there. There is a bomb somewhere. Here's the spinner, and as you can see, it's hollow there. There's another supercharger intake. That'll be the fat one, I'm imagining. Gun pods for the later ones, and then here you can see the really nice fabric detail. It is quite strong, I will say, on the rudder, but very fine. And then the one-piece tailplanes, it would be a simple job, I would say, just to cut through. That's a very deep line just on the elevator mass balance there. So a very fine saw in there, and then just scribing, and then you'll be able to just bend that and and set an angle if you so wish. Onto the gear doors, a little bit of flash there, but tiny amount. Separate flaps, so you can pose those down. And there is that separate tail fin. Again, beautifully detailed. Spinner back plate right next to it. Control column, that's really nicely detailed. Tall mast, short mast, and 4 aileron mass balances. So you do get some spares, but I will be replacing those with Barracuda casts. It's all there really, isn't it? 3 different types of tailplane, even the extended one for the later G's and K's and things. So all in all, really nice. Last thing to show you is the instrument panel. Now you could dry brush, but there will be decals for that. Obviously with the Profi pack and this limited edition dual boxing, there is a photo etch replacement. I might use the decal actually, just to, on the canopy closed version, just to show you that. Right, that's nice. Right, where's the clear parts here? Oh, here's a clear sprue, and unfortunately the main canopy has fallen off. I'll just move that out of shot. As you can imagine, crystal clear, positive frames, relatively thick, but it was in real life. So that's nice. And then on the sprue, obviously the other bits, wingtip lights there, the gun sight, and the fuel pipe. All really good stuff. Right, let's put that in the bag. And there will be another one of those in there somewhere. Sorry about that. There's someone at my front door, back in the UK. Right, let's have a look now at the decals. In fact, here's the decals here. Before I do that, let's have a look at the photo etch. So you get a brass fret, which I like, rather than the nickel plated stuff. So all sorts of things on there. All the grills and radiators, as you can imagine. There's bomb fins. There's the canopy detail. There's the hose for the brakes. We've got some rudder pedals in there. These are the exhaust shrouds. So yeah, very comprehensive. And then on the flip side, we have the colour photo etch set. And obviously we've got the instrument panel and the harnesses, as you may expect, but other things. So this is that other trim wheel that's all coloured, various bits for the side walls. Yeah, really nice. Okay, decals. Here are the decals. Let's get these out. Now, the Eduard decal debate. I actually really like how these perform. They go down brilliantly. They suck down into all the detail. And yes, you can remove the carrier film. But a lot of people complain about the printing. What I can see from here is the black and the white is nice and solid, nice and opaque, very sharp. Here's that spinner decal look. The yellows, though, do look a little bit sort of faded and a little bit washed out, as do the green for the JG54 machines, which is a real shame, because you are going to paint in the same yellow as all these markings here, all the theatre markings, and yeah, is that going to work? I'm not so sure. You're going to have to kind of wash out your RLM04, which is quite a strong yellow. It's quite an orangey yellow. So that's a real shame. But we'll see how they actually how they look when they go down. Maybe if you avoid the markings with the yellow, which is going to be difficult, you might be okay. Right, so that's really the contents of the box. There are some stencils, but there's no point showing you that because stencils are stencils. Let's have a look at some of the aftermarket stuff. So I've got the Brassin exhausts. Just put the packaging out there. They all come in this really nifty little box with a bit of double-sided tape. These are 3D printed, and if the camera's going to focus, you can see they are hollow. Also, with this, you do get some photo etch as well for the shrouds, but it's included in the photo etch set on the kit. Right, just a bit awkward packaging really. It all deforms the packaging. I think they need to look for some sort of different solution for that. But this is the prop and the spinner. Looks like the spinner boss backplate and the prop. The spinner and the boss and the backplate are 3D printed, whereas the blades are traditionally cast. And the detail on that spinner is beautiful, really crisp and sharp. And the housing here for the prop blades are square, and the square on the base of the blade. So that's going to set your angle, no worries at all. This here is the muzzle for the cannon, which slots into this hole here. So you haven't got a hollow hole looking through the spinner. I think that's really cool. Right, so that's that one. This one is the wheelbase set. Get this one out. This is just a drop-in replacement. You can see it's printed. The advantage over the kit is it's more in scale in thickness. There's more detail around the sides here, and there's some kind of detail in these parts here through the gaplet. But they're wheel wells, so are you going to see it much when it's sat on the shelf? No. But for those who want a little bit of extra refinement, then you may wish to buy those. Right, the last one I'll show you are these mass balances from Barracuda Cast. So, I don't really want to get them out if I can, but obviously we've lost a few in transit, but they are in the bag. So what these have, what these have down here, sorry for the glare, is the way they mount. There's like a plug. They're molded in with a plug, so you drill out a hole to fit the plug and put that in, and it's a lot stronger. So that's well worth it. And I've lost a few there. I'm going to have lost one. Well, one's snapped. 1, 2. I've lost 3, but I've still got 4, 5. I've still got 6 there, so enough for another 3 aeroplanes. Well worth it, those, and they're really relatively cheap. Right, that is a quick trip through the box then of the Eduard 1/72 scale Bf 109F. So let's pop back over to the chair and we'll have a bit of a wash up.
Okay, there we are. That's the contents of the box of this brand new Eduard kit. I think you'll agree they've done an absolutely stunning job on that surface detail and the cockpit detail, but the surface detail is what leaps out to me. Those rivets are actually finer than they look on camera. The contrast tends to exaggerate some of that surface detail, especially in close-up, but they are really, really very, very fine. I would say that the clear prop rivets are even finer, but there is a danger there that they are so fine that the decal is just not going to cope. Have to see when I build my clear prop stuff. Got the H75N and the Key 51 Sonia in 72nd scale, but maybe this is the kind of the perfect sort of riveting, because it's all right. It's that slightly a little bit bigger than the clear prop stuff, but it will, I'm sure, suck those decals in. Talking of decals, as I said, the green and the yellow look slightly washed out to me in my eyes. The black and whites look nice and strong, but it'll be interesting to see how they go down. I'm not entirely sure what schemes I'm going to do. I do have an extra decal sheet, and I want to do one scheme from the box using the kit decals, and one using the extra decals, just to compare and contrast. We'll see how I get on with that, I guess. Right, there we are. I think I'll leave it there. It's going to be a really good fun build, I'm sure, and I'll be starting it quite soon. So look out for the part 1 on that. So I'll leave it there, and yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Thanks very much. Cheers. Bye-bye.